Hello and welcome to Culture Crew Podcast, episode 6. Today we have Karton Zawolo here. He is the CEO of and owner of the Capitol Room in Liberia. He also owns Palava Hut Marketing, the Airport Lounge at Roberts International Airport, and also City Park and Management.
Thank you.
Did I leave anything out?
No, so far so good. So far so good. We're good with that.
All right.
If I think of something else, we'll add it on along the way.
Right. We're here recording from DC, but you just got back from Cuba, and your pics look amazing. Tell us about your trip to Cuba.
It was the most amazing, actually the most meaningful trip I've ever had in my entire life, actually. It came about because a cousin, it was his 50th birthday, and he wanted to treat his friends and he considers me to be like his little brother too on this trip, 15 of us. And actually most of us were entrepreneurs. Some of the people on the trip were the owners of Shea Moisture, Emmett, Rich Lou, and Nima, whose birthday it was who's also one of the owners. It was his birthday. So This was a treat for us to go to Cuba and experience the cultural exchange. But it was amazing.
Where are my friends at that having birthday parties and flying 15 of their friends?
I just got lucky, man. Look, when he told me 2 months ago that, hey, I want to do this in Cuba, I started packing my bags like 2 months ago.
You were already there.
Oh, I'm already there. I'm like, I didn't even ask the wife. I just knew, like, hey, babe, I'm gone. On this date, I just want to make sure she didn't have anything planned, so I just told her first before, she comes back later and says, I have this trip to go do some stuff. No.
And by the wife, you mean Baku Tubman Zawolo.
Yes.
Who is also a serial entrepreneur, jack of all trades, but master of all. And I'm not just saying this because I'm her small sister. I'm actually saying this because it's like just being a young person in Liberia and also here, the amount of people that look up to her, and then when you say the name, how it rings or whatever. So definitely a power couple, the two of you. But I just wanted to throw that out there so they know.
And super mom.
Super mom to 3.
Super mom of 3. Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Wow.
So you went from having no children,
right,
to having 3. At one time.
I'm still trying to figure it out right now. I remember when she called me, and we thought we were going to have one. We knew she was pregnant, and we thought we were going to have one. And I remember sitting in a meeting, and she's like, "Hey, I got to talk to you." I'm like, "Okay, there's something wrong." She's like, "No, everything is great, but you need to go step outside." And so I said, "Let me go in my car." So, just in case there's an issue, I'm by myself. And I remember her telling me, everything is great, but there's 3 of them. I'm like, 3 of what? She's like, there's 3 of them. There's 3 people inside me. I'm like, nah, you got to be fucking kidding me. Like, this is not even possible. I'm an only child. Like, how is this? So she was like, look, the funny thing was the doctor was listening. She had me on speaker, so the doctor was listening to the conversation, and he was in stitches. But the PSK gang, we're excited about them. Piper, Skylar, and KJ. God's gift, man. I'm so thankful.
Yeah, so I saw a video the other day, and it looks like KJ and Skylar are walking now. And Piper is not going to be far behind them.
No, so. Piper is KJ is a bona fide walker. Skylar is a bona fide runner. And Piper is a bona fide stander. Right now she stands. Nobody got her beat in that. She can stand. She can stand better than anyone. She got that on lock.
Yeah. So they definitely. It's crazy how it's like they all have their own personalities almost already.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel? Because raising 3 children in Liberia. Can we just talk about that? Like, does it? And maybe this is a good question for you because it's in terms of the challenges, do you think it's easier? Because I know the other day when I had my podcast with Thal, he mentioned, he has 3 boys in America. And he mentioned some of the things about how having like not having help and back, having to do it all on your own. Do you think having your triplets in Liberia makes it a little bit easier, or no? It's
No,
still...
oh hell yeah, it makes it a hell of a lot easier. I mean, we couldn't wait to get back to Liberia because we spent about 7, 8 months, and it was tough. I mean, I'm sure it's tough for anyone with even one child in the States without any help. But once we got back to Liberia, I tell my friends all the time because I was back and forth and Barku was in the States at our place, and every time I'm in the States, I believe there's no man out there that's changed more diapers than I have, to be honest with you, because I mean those things were coming like clockwork,
Yeah.
So, but once we got back to Liberia, I wasn't going to be changing any diapers. So that was it for me. I was so thankful. The nurses were waiting when we returned. I mean, the grandparents are there to help. It's truly a village. Once we came back to Liberia.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Yeah. So we were actually just talking before we started the podcast. I'm looking on Instagram, all the pictures everyone's posting at like right now at the Capitol Room as we speak. The day party that's happening there. I know it's a monthly thing. That you started, but can you just tell us more about the inspiration behind Capitol Room? Yeah.
Well, Capitol Room. As an entrepreneur, a lot of businesses that I've decided that I wanted to launch were based on places I wanted to be or things I wanted to do or things I wanted to experience. So the Capitol Room was more about creating that experience that I wanted to be a part of. I'm into cigars. I'm into wine. So we import cigars from Cuba. We import wine from Spain, Italy, South Africa, France. So I wanted to create that environment, and I also wanted a view. And I was lucky with the view because there was a space there at before called La Pointe Restaurant. And so I was lucky to link up with the owner, and who was able to create the Capitol Room.
Yeah.
But the Capitol Room is basically an experience that I wanted, that I enjoyed, and I wanted other people to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that made it easy for me.
Okay.
It was actually my third or fourth project in Liberia. And I find myself, from the time I moved to Liberia since 2011, it's always been back to back. By the time I launched one project, the next year, sometimes even within 6 months, I start working on another one. I guess that's just my fix. That's my drug. I need to keep, building and creating, and it's not necessarily reinventing the wheel, because these are things that I've experienced. These are things that I've seen. That's why I also like to travel, because I like to. It helps me, garner ideas.
Yeah.
So that's basically those experiences what led to me saying, I want to do a Capitol Room. I want, the fact that I like cigars and I want to sit and overlook the Atlantic and drink some wine or a great cocktail. I want to create that for other people because I believe they were out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, Capitol Room is, you can't go to Liberia. You can't be in Liberia talking about going to lunch, going to happy hour, or trying to go and experience the nightlife without hearing about Capitol Room. So you really have made it into an all-day venue, from lunch to your great happy hour specials to the nightlife. So you said you're always trying to create new things, and we move on to the next project. What's your next project?
Well, I don't know yet. I think I'm transitioning into. I always wanted to be a hotelier, a developer. So the funny thing is, initially I looked at the space of the Capitol Room to do a boutique hotel. I've always been into hotels, and I wanted to create a luxury boutique hotel in Liberia. Not a lot of rooms, maybe 20 to 25 rooms, but real 5-star service, right? But the property, the way it was set up, and if anyone who knows about Mama Point in Liberia, it's all rock. There was no way. We were working with limited space, and there was no way to really build what I had envisioned. And so I went back to something that I already knew, and I used to own a club in Houston, Texas, for about 5 years, and it was called the Karton Exchange. Yeah, I see some people in this room who spend many nights at the Karton Exchange, but
cool,
so yeah, I took advantage of this space. But I think from this point on, I've been looking into the whole hotel business, luxury apartments, condos facing the sea. That's where I'm going. I haven't really identified specifically what is really going to be, but that's the area.
Yeah.
I'm slowly.
And you know what? The funny thing that you say that is that because we're all Liberians, most of the time when we go to Liberia, we stay with someone.
Right.
And I know I always did. So I've always knew all these hotels, and I go there to eat, but never actually saw the rooms.
Right.
And the last time I visited, I was bringing my boyfriend with me, so I was like, okay, I want to like get a hotel so you can see, like, let's experience this. So we're like visiting some of the hotels that I always in my mind thought from the lobby area. I'm like, oh yeah, there. And then I'm seeing the rooms and the prices, and I'm like, wait a minute, yeah. And it's like and it's so crazy because I lived there for so long, knowing these hotels, and I just never went inside the rooms.
What did you think of the room?
I didn't think it was, for the price, it's not up to par.
Well, I'll tell you a story.
So it's a definitely good business to get into.
No, I mean, I really want to do it, and I know I can do it the right way because you're right. The funny thing is, when I first visited Liberia for the first time since the 80s was 2007. I remember my dad was like, hey, come to Liberia. I know you're doing things in Houston. But, come see what's up. I think you will like it. I mean, he was just really, I'm his only child. I'm his son, his only boy, his only child, period. And he just wanted me there. I get it. He was like, oh, I want my son to come to Liberia and do some things. He's doing stuff in the States, but he needs to come here. So I remember the first time I came, I stayed in a hotel. And I remember this specifically because the room was around, I'm not going to call any names, but the room was around $225 to $250 a night, and I had to take a bucket bath.
Yep.
And I was bugging out. I was like, wow, $250 a night to take a bucket bath. And then I realized that all the hotels then, the rooms were like that, were whack. I mean, maybe you had one or two that were okay, but trust me, they weren't worth $200 or even $100.
Yeah.
They probably weren't worth $50 a night.
Right.
But they was charging that kind of money. And then it took a few years later, I remember Bob Johnson decided to do a hotel in Liberia. And once he did that, the other hotels decided that they wanted to upgrade because people were like, wow, this is, if I'm going to pay $200 a night, I'm going to stay here at Kenneja.
Yeah.
Right? It's better than this bullshit that they have me sitting in, right? So then everyone started to step their game up. And my belief is people want good shit, right?
Yeah.
They want good stuff. But in the past, business people have taken advantage of the fact that, just give them anything because there's a lack of space or accommodation, and they'll just have to pay, and they'll have to deal with it. So I see myself as, okay, you know what? Yeah, you have some decent hotels now that are going up, but I know I can do it better. I see some decent spaces for rental condos. I think I can do it better because I know what I like, and I know there are people out there in Liberia that can appreciate the things that I like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so apart from what you're thinking about getting into, you still have a lot of stuff that you're doing apart from the Capitol Room. Yeah. I checked out like I said, I went to Liberia in December, and I was able to check out the Airport Lounge, which is a great feature if you're traveling through the airport, either terminal, and you don't want to sit in the hot, like uncomfortable chairs for those awful flights that we get out of Liberia, whether it be Air Morocco at 3:00 in the morning or this latest one that leaves at midnight or whatever. It's not comfortable. But the Airport Lounge had air conditioning, TV, Wi-Fi, drinks, food, everything. So like, what was the inspiration behind that? How's that doing?
It's doing well. I mean, it was needed. It's preferably, it's really to support the business class travelers. But then what we did was we added an option for an economy traveling passenger to be able to pay to use the lounge.
Yeah.
Because, you may not want to, I'm sure you guys know, like, round trip business class to Liberia sometimes runs from $4,000 to $6,000. Not a lot of people can afford that. But it doesn't mean, and those people, automatically get to use the lounge. But it doesn't mean, someone who has a economy ticket should be denied, some kind of comfort before they leave Trust me, it's stressful enough leaving Liberia, from the time you get there to getting out.
With the bags and everything. Exactly. So going into that lounge, I mean, when I was traveling, was definitely like getting in there and being like,
relax, yes.
Like got through this. Like now I can like be on the internet because, there's Wi-Fi and everything like that. So great. I mean, I always think when you guys think of these business ideas, it's always like it's right there. You know what I mean? So when someone does it, it's like, duh.
Why? Yeah.
Like, why hasn't anyone, thought of this? So another duh project that you have, because we want to go through the list.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get in your head and just figure out, like, the thought processes behind all of this that's doing well. What we want to talk about? We want to talk about Palava Hut, or we want to talk about city parking management, because both were definitely needed in Liberia. And
city parking was the baby. I mean, that's what really I before I moved to Liberia, I wanted to create something that was going to be sustainable for me, and at the same time was going to make an impact. So that's how city parking came about. The funny thing is, I had taken 2 or 3 trips to Liberia from 2007 to 2011, and every time I'm there, I'm trying to figure shit out. Like, what am I going to do? I know I can do something here. And I didn't know what I wanted to do yet, but I knew I wanted to be in Liberia. I felt like, there's something happening here, and I need to be a part of it. And I remembered when I owned a club in Houston, like most clubs, especially if it's a nightclub, it's very trendy. So it starts off one way, then it has its highs, and then when something new opens up and it's popping, then your shit starts to go down, right? And I was going through that. And I remember the only people that were making money when I was in this space in Houston, in the center of downtown Houston, I mean prime property, when we were slowing down, when things were going south, the only people that made money were the parking agents, which were guys from Ethiopia. That basically what they did, they rented the parking spaces around, the entertainment district. Mm-hmm. So whether you was going to this club or that club, you had to pay $20 to park. Mm-hmm. And I just thought it was a fucking brilliant idea. I was like, you know what? I need to get out of this. I'm paying $10,000, $15,000 a month in rent for a club. And this guy he has no overhead. And he's just making money 7 days a week, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, so I'm sitting in traffic one day in Liberia. It made me realize that you can commercialize parking. I'm sitting in traffic, 4 years later, I'm sitting in traffic in Liberia trying to figure this shit out. And I'm on Randall Street. Yeah, it was Randall Street. And we're sitting between Broad and Carey Street for about 30 minutes because some guy just parks his car and decide he want to go talk to a man on the side, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody's sitting in traffic right now. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, we sitting in traffic, like, trying to figure out, like, what's going on? Is there an argument? Is someone sick? What is happening? Literally, it's because a guy decided he just want to go holler at him, man. Nah. And that's when the light bulb went off, like, ding, you need to commercialize this thing because you need to put a value. People don't value parking. If you put a value to it, then they will respect it. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, you'll be able to decongest, the city, which was a huge issue. I mean, if you look at an aerial view of Monrovia before 2011, mm-hmm. it was like a gridlock throughout the day. I mean, and there was no rhyme or reason for, why. It was just because people didn't have a real value for parking. Mm-hmm. First of all, when we started, they said, but why would pay for parking in the street for us? Mm-hmm. How the government would charge, and we didn't want to. Mm-hmm. So we went through that, but that's what started the whole thing. And I wanted it to have a social impact too. So that's why we decided to only hire students. Yeah. So there was this issue where you talk to a kid and he's like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I just sell market. Okay, you sell market for who? For me and my family, I just sell market so I can go to school. So I remember even when I was in college, we did work-study programs, and this was an opportunity. We kind of devised it in a way where they could work part-time and at the same time go to school. Okay. And that way it will give the youth an opportunity to make their own income. And it was a decent income for them. They were making for 3 days a week, they were making between $75 to $100 US every month, which was sometimes more than what civil servants were getting. At that time. Yeah.
No, I remember being there when it happened. I remember because I was working in Snapper Hill at the time.
Right.
So I remember the days of being able to just be parking anywhere, and then city parking came in. But I was like, you know what?
And you was arguing with them too.
I was a little salty or whatever because I used to park here all the time. Yeah. But it was like there were students, and that's what I liked about it because it was like there were young people, and I got the bigger picture, and long term it made sense. You know what I mean? Like that we weren't sitting in. I mean, we're still sitting in traffic, but you know, like people weren't holding up, like parking their car, like you mentioned with the guy. You know what I mean? Who's holding up traffic and I mean, it's what you do in a bustling city, you know what I mean? And we were behind anyway. It happens everywhere, so it definitely needed to happen.
And everybody benefited. The city benefited because then they was able to, because it was a partnership agreement with the city. They benefited. The students benefited from it, and the flow of traffic and the time-consuming stuff, we was able to cut some of that out. I mean, some of our challenges with it, which I was very surprised. I mean, people who were, you know, quote unquote exposed will be the same ones that say, "Oh no, I'm not paying for parking." But I'm sure these people, when they were in D.C. or New York or whatsoever, and they pulled their car up to that space, they were parking because they would get booted. You know, they respected those laws. So, I think the people who weren't exposed, they got it in time, but funny enough, the challenges came from people who should have known better.
Yeah. And how's it doing now?
It's doing good. I mean, we're not the only ones. Because of what we piloted, another company was able to launch, so we divided the city. Okay. And I mean, for me, it's not so much even about the money. It's just about what we're doing. You know, people are benefiting. I realize that if I provide an opportunity for someone, it's not just for that person. He has 6 or 7 people that he's trying to provide to feed. Yeah. So I'm helping families. Yeah. You know, we've hired over 2,000 people since 2000. Actually, way more than that, since 2011, 2012. Wow. Some of these kids have been there for a year to 2 years, and they've graduated. They've gone on to other things. Yeah, so we've definitely, you know, I multiply that 2,000 by another 6, so 12,000 people probably or more have benefited from some family member working for city parking management.
Oh, yeah, great initiative. And like I said, major cities are doing it, and there's no reason why Liberia should have been so far behind in the first place. So I guess lastly, what we can talk about is Palava Hut. One, we all love the name, because it's very Liberian, but then also, at first I was like, okay, Palava Hut does billboards. But then when the museum, the National Museum, it was rebuilt recently and reopened, which is great, because now we have some type level of like, you know, when tourists come and just in general for us somewhere to go and learn more about, you know, Liberia and our culture. I noticed that you guys were on the project for renovating. So what does Palava Hut do? Let the people know, like, how, like, I mean, maybe if you can help with renovations or if it's only, like, billboards and things like that.
Well, initially, Palava Hut started when I was working in the music industry. I had an opportunity to work for Destiny Child, and I remembered coming out of college, it wasn't like going to work for Sony. Matthew Knows gave me this opportunity to start my own company and work as the project manager, marketing project manager for Music World Entertainment, which was the marketing company and management company for Destiny Child. Okay. And so I had to work along with Sony. So I named the company Palava Hut because I think he liked the fact that I could come up with solutions. And Palava Hut to me was, okay, we go in divided but come out as one. So we go in, you know, divided on what we're going to do, but once we leave this Palava Hut, we're going to have a solution. And that's what the premise, you know, for Palava Hut. So from there, I decided, I did a lot of work in entertainment with Palava Hut, with Sony, Toyota, Vibe magazine. Wow. I did, you know, quite a few stuff for Universal, Cash Money Records. We did a lot of the national marketing and radio promo stuff for them. And that was all under the Palava Hut thing, which was really a one-man show. It was really just me, you know. Okay. Fast forward, when I came to Liberia, I wanted to expand the whole Palava Hut thing besides just marketing and promo to be more about creative concepts. And the first project that I did in Liberia was redoing the bus stops. So they used to have these hideous bus stops in Monrovia. It was all made of brick.
Yeah.
And you remember they used to paint them red, white, and blue. You know, everything like here, red, white, and blue. It's fine, all right? So I went to this. I had CPM at that point, and the mayor she was very open to my ideas, and I told her, I said, listen, I have a way the city can make some money. My other business, Palava Creative Concepts, I want to redo these bus stops, and I think we can generate income for the city because I will redo it in a way where people can advertise on it, like properly, and you will sell inventory on this bus stop. So this bus stop, the first one we did, we put it up by a foreign ministry. The president was going to work. She said, "What's that?" Right? Because it looked very aerodynamic, but they loved it. And then we were able to. A lot of companies saw that, and they saw it as an alternative to the typical billboards and signs. You know, and my thing was we was providing shelter, at the same time. Advertising space for the people that are in the bus, people that are driving by. There's more of a line of sight.
Yeah.
The other thing was we put up around 25 bus stops, and previously I know we broke down maybe 3 or 4, so there weren't even enough bus stops in the city.
Yeah.
I mean, from the time you leave Congo Town and you're going across the bridge, there was only like 1 or 2, to be honest with you, right? So we broke those down and we replaced it, and then we added more. So now the NTA bus had, multiple places. I mean, they used to have the sign, but people would just stand under the sign, but there wasn't any shelter. So now there were 25 of these bus stops.
Wow.
Lone Star was one of our first customers. They loved it, and they pretty much branded a lot of the bus stops. GT Bank, NASCorp. We had quite a few, Club Beer. We had quite a few people, LFA, that actually branded the bus stop. They saw the value in it. And the city was able to make some money because now it wasn't about, billboards. Here's something that also is for the people. It provided the shelter. So that was the first project in Liberia for Palava Creative Concepts. And we did do billboards. But I like the creative stuff. I don't want to do the norm, put up a billboard next to another billboard next to another billboard. But that was the first project that we did that I felt was important because, hey, now people have a place to sit from the rain. And you know how rainy season in Liberia is. Yeah, it's rough. It was actually a good project. It's still there. We're about to renovate them. We have some new ideas, so stay tuned.
Yeah. Wow, Karton. So first of all, I didn't even know all this. The Destiny's Child, the music, all that background. So you and Baku actually have a lot in common, I guess, in terms of like she comes from the music background. You guys liking to start businesses and stuff like that. So like, are you guys collabing a lot? Like how's that working?
Yeah, we do. I mean, listen, she's my, I need to. She helps me because. In my mind, things are really cloudy. I have all these ideas, and I think it's the same for her. And I tell her all the time, like she actually, when I say it to her or I run it by her, she actually makes it make sense for me. She makes it make sense for me. And I mean, it took a little bit of time for me to get to that stage, but because we're both, pretty much, we're pretty strong-headed. We have our own ideas. I support what she's doing. And we collab. She's a part of everything that I do. So none of these things will work without her because I need her to, you just feel like you need someone to just make it make sense for you. You have this brilliant idea, and sometimes I find that I overcomplicate things, and she helps me simplify it. And then I'm comfortable enough to go ahead and do it. And I think she feels the same way. Funny enough, we know the same people. But I never knew Baku when I was in the States. It was we had a mutual friend, Musa, Shannon, that introduced us. And once we were introduced, she was like, "Oh, I know this person in New York, and I worked with this person," and she knew Matthew as well. You know? But I had never heard of her or met her.
Now look, this
now
great
look
team.
at that.
Black love.
3 children.
Right.
Triplets. 3 children as a result of that. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess let everyone know how to wait. Well, I have one more question actually. So your Cuba trip. How did Capital Room? Did you bring stuff back?
Well, I mean, not really. I mean, I picked up a couple of things. The good thing is I have, strong ties with Cuba as far as business for the cigars already.
Okay, great.
But the trip was really good for me because now I actually got an opportunity to see, if I'm selling Cohibas and Patagas and all these high-end cigars, the process, I actually have a better appreciation for the process of making these cigars. I mean, I remember we went in the factory. Unfortunately, I couldn't take pictures in the factory, but you had about 500 people in this factory, and there was no machine. It was basically they have everyone sitting at not even a cubicle, like a long bench, and in front of them they have all the different leaves to wrap the cigar, right? Because it's all the tobacco leaves and the wrapper and all that shit. And then basically they put it in this press, and then it's a vise. So everything is so manual, right? And they have to do it right. I mean, they probably 70% of the time they get it right. 30% goes to waste, and they do something else with it. But it's such a process, right? And you're doing this thing, continuously all day, like 10 hours sometimes, right? Yeah. I actually have a better appreciation and value for the cigars because I needed to see that. I think I wouldn't have appreciated it if it was, you went to this factory and they threw the wrappers in some machine, and then you hit the button on the computer, and the computer does something, and next thing you know, you have, like how to do cigarettes. Yeah. Then I wouldn't have appreciated. Yeah. But these were people doing this. These were young men to 80-year-old men and women. I mean, all ages. From very young to very old, sitting there continuously, and they made they made 12. They paid them $25 a month. Yeah. That's what they got paid. But the benefits for them for working there was they would give them cigars. And they can sell them. Okay. Right? They won't be as good as the one that we're getting that passed the quality test, but they will sell it to people because people love cigars there. So they use this to sell. I don't know how much money they make, but I just had an appreciation for it. I mean, it was something I needed to see. And it's about the people, man. These were people actually doing this work. It wasn't. I think if for anyone that smokes a cigar and they think, oh well, this is just a cigar. No, I see it more than just a cigar now. I see it as that process leading to make this stuff. Because these are not people that are really well off. Okay. They're not starving, but if Cuba is a socialist, society, and everyone, are considered equal, whether you're black, white, which was something that I did appreciate. A lot of them felt like, hey, we're Africans, even if they were. Their skin was white and this one was black. They didn't see, and I've seen that different when you go to Cuba or Colombia. When I was in Colombia, it was different. It was a social class of if you're lighter, you have a higher social, class than if you're darker. Yeah. But it really wasn't like that in Cuba. But everything that's happening there is because of the people. And if I'm getting a product from there, it was important for me to, I see more value, in it now.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I want you to tell everyone how to find you and the Capital Room, which is located...
Mama Point, Monrovia, Liberia. You can hit us up on the IG, the Capital Room. You can also hit us up. The website is thecapitalroomafrica.com. And you can probably even find us on Facebook, right? The Capital Room. Yep. Yeah, we have a page. Okay. Yeah.
So the Capital Room, and I noticed one more thing with the Capital Room. So tell us about the day party that's going to be happening. I think on a monthly basis. I think you have a happy hour that happens from 5 to 7, Tuesday to Friday.
Yes.
Okay, so Tuesday happy hour Tuesday to Friday, $5 cocktails,
$5 food,
$5 food, $5 cocktails. We're unheard of, and nice drinks. Right. And then you have the buffet, that is from Tuesday to Friday also.
From 12 to 3.
From 12 to 3
for $12.
For $12,
and
unlimited.
It's all unlimited, and we have Liberian food mixed with some Western stuff and salad, soup. You know, it's good food for the price. You know, we're very fair with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then also we Friday nights, which a lot of people like to come to the Capitol Room. We have a DJ FIA. He's playing Afrobeat. Saturday we do a little more. We do some Afrobeat and some old school with DJ Heineken, and we're also doing events like just a few weeks ago. We brought in DJ Black, who from Ghana, who won Best DJ Award about a year or two ago. So he came and rocked. I mean, it was crazy. So yeah, we had a blast. So we want to do more of that. Like, you know, we're not a big space to do, you know, live performances so much, but I really like this DJ thing that we're doing. We want to start bringing in DJs from Nigeria. We want to, you know, as far as Liberia, keep our DJs, our resident DJs there too, and do stuff with Liberian artists as well. But we want to start bringing some DJs from, you know, around Africa.
But you're a large space enough for people to like, because I noticed the other day there was a women's day event. Sometimes the lodge they have events there, so it's an event. People go there and they host their different luncheons. And Musa, who you mentioned was your mutual friend. He had a launch of his Prosecco there the other day. So people are using it as like a venue to host stuff at. Yeah,
we definitely open to that. I mean, you can host your events there. We can set up for anything. I mean, even for a wedding reception, if you wanted us to, our space, you know, seated, we capacity of maybe about 150 to 175. Okay. Yeah, because we have 3 areas where you can sit. So.
And then you're doing the rooftop now.
And we're doing the rooftop. The rooftop is going to be crazy. It's panoramic, so you'll be able to see from West Point to Duca to the Atlantic Ocean to the other side of Mama Point.
Y'all about to kill it.
Well, we hope, man. And we want to kill it. We want people to we want people to enjoy it. We want to kill nobody because you know we're on a cliff. So, but we you know, but we listen. It's I know you can appreciate it. You know,
that's 100% Liberian owned, which just makes it even that much better. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I mean, it's good. I know Tanya and I, one time when we were living there, we tried to do this thing where we were like, I mentioned this to you that day, how we tried to do only do Liberian businesses for like a whole, don't do anything else. Like, don't eat from another place. And it was like virtually like, it mainly came down to like the shopping aspects, because there's no supermarkets. Right. There's no Liberian-owned supermarkets in Liberia. They're all Lebanese-owned. So it was virtually impossible.
Yeah, and that's a problem.
It's a major problem.
It's a problem. I think we need to work together. I wouldn't mind working with other Liberians and say, look, let's open up a supermarket. I mean, I think we need to have things that, you know, those things are important. We can't be dependent, and even in your own country, then you're dependent on rice. It's your staple food. You know, you needed to come from somewhere else in order for you to eat. You're dependent on the things that you need from the supermarket. You depend sometimes even on the vegetables that are imported. I mean, we have to be able to create our own. I mean, I think that's the next step. I see it in other countries. I mean, like in Ghana, people are coming together and doing, in Nigeria, they're coming together and doing stuff. Mm-hmm. We got to be able to do that too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we're on the way to that. We were at an event on Thursday, and they talked about this. I don't know if you heard about it, and I don't even know if I know the correct name for it, but basically it's like now the African Union came together. Mm-hmm. I want to say that this happened like last week, and it's allowing people from like, instead of us needing a visa now to go to Kenya or somewhere like that, we can go there without needing it. So it allows us to travel more and share more and, you know, just do more instead of it being so much constraints and get this visa and go to this place and do that. Mm-hmm. I know a couple people didn't show up for it. Apparently Nigeria didn't show up for it. But I mean, I just think that we're just like, Africa is hot right now. It's always been hot, but it's like everyone else is starting to, I guess, catch on to ride the wave. But it's good that we're and like you said, like it's good that Africans now we're trying to work more together more, but I think it's important too for Liberians. So that's the point of the podcast. Is to just promote Liberians and like you think that we know so much or we know each other, you know what I mean? But look how close you and Baku were in a circle and didn't even know, each other, you know what I mean? And even the other day, I like our show was on the podcast, and I would think everyone already knows her, and she mentioned to me how because of the podcast, Karton Momolu reached out to her. Now she's going to be at New York Fashion Week promoting her business. Nice. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like the point is just that like we have to like continue to support each other and work together, you know what I mean? Because that's the only way for us to grow, you know. And like you said, you see it with Ghana, you see it with Nigeria, but that's what they're doing. Right.
I mean, this is a great platform. I think, we need to do more of this to know, like I'm glad that I know our show. And she's been on the grind for a while, we're super proud of her. I mean, she's determined, she's focused, and I'm glad that, because of this platform, she's able to connect with someone like Karton Momolu, who, won, what was it? What was the show she won? Heidi Klum. Project Runway. Yeah, she won that, right? Mm-hmm. She won that, with Heidi Klum. So
she was second runner up or something like that. Yeah, but still.
No, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I'm happy for her, and I will work with anyone that,
I love hearing this because that is what's been happening across the board with each one of the interviews. You said it, Thou said it, Arshel said. Everyone has been saying it, but I think some people think sometimes that there's a level of competition, like they don't want to reach out or like they see you and they're admiring you from afar, but it's like, or maybe they want to do something similar to what you're doing, but they're like, nah, he's not gonna look out because he's gonna see me as competition. But I think what each one of you guys keep saying is like, reach out, let's collab. Like, I like working, you know what I mean?
Like, I really like what Liberian Food is doing. I mean, I just thought it was brilliant.
LIBfood.com.
Yeah, LIB Food, yeah. Right? Yeah, I wouldn't mind meeting him. I mean, the funny thing is, where I am at the fam's place, I mean, they ordered food from him all the time. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I got to wean off Liberian food a little bit so I can get rid of the gut.
Oh, he got vegan options.
Oh, he got vegan. No, but I love what he's doing, man. I think it's so cool. More power to you, brother, because I think he's tapped into something to the diaspora, and not only the diaspora. I mean, I find that everyone loves Liberian food. Mm-hmm. White people, Spanish people, they like the spices. I mean, I think sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, and it's putting, and the big thing there too is putting Liberia on the map. Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. But yes, follow the Capital Room, but it's underscore. It's the _capital _room on Instagram. On Facebook, it's the Capital Room. Again, this was Karton Zawolo. He is the owner, CEO of the Capital Room, the Airport Lounge. Next time you travel to Liberia, make sure you check it out. It's a super dope lounge, comfortable when you're there. And thank you guys for listening. And make sure that you repost this and you at Culture Crew Podcast, at 231 Media, and at the Capital Room, the _capital _room, and we'll have something super dope in store for you if you repost this. So thank you for listening. Until next time.